What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another entertainment video, y'all. We're pumping it up. We're pushing content right now. We're going to be talking more NFL today, so make sure you're tuning in. Stay for the whole video. We got to talk some predictions, some previews, see who's going to make it to the AFC, the NFC Championship, and both of these matchups on Saturday and Sunday are going to be absolutely killer. You know, the NFL, especially the playoffs, it always lives up to the hype, and right now, my Chicago Bears, they've already been eliminated, so I'm pretty much stress-free football right now. I'm actually enjoying the games. I have nobody I'm rooting for. I have nobody that I really got my heart in the game right now, besides a little bit of money that I'll sprinkle on some FanDuel. But besides that, it feels good. Just stress-free, enjoy the playoffs, and I'm excited for these two different matchups in the AFC, two different matchups in the NFC, and we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. But before I do, make sure you hit that like button. Drop a comment, guys. It takes like 2 seconds. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe. And if you're feeling extra generous today, go ahead and share the video, share the clips I got, and just kind of check out some of my other content, man. I appreciate everybody using some time to come through. We're building the Ant Farm slowly, y'all. We were not even at 80 subscribers. Now we're at 82. We're trying to get to 90, then 100, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But let's just go ahead and get right into it, man. We're doing some NFL divisional round preview, picks, predictions, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to go ahead and just start off with the first matchup, man. So I'm going to start off with the AFC, talk about those two matchups. Then I'm going to shift, talk about the NFC. So in the AFC, this Saturday, you got the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Houston Texans. Houston went up against LA last round. They got out. Kansas City coming off a bye week. So the real question you got to ask yourself here is, will the Chiefs make their 7th straight AFC Championship game? Kansas City did beat Houston earlier this season, 27-19. They finished the number 1 seed, got a bye. Houston's coming off a win against the Los Angeles Chargers, which was somewhat of an upset. But Joe Mixon, he ran for 100-plus yards, but right now he is questionable for the game this Saturday. Kansas City, they've won 10 straight games at home. They're trying to make it to their 7th straight AFC Championship, and they're trying to become the first team in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. The Texans, on the other hand, their best chance, control the running game from the Chiefs, run the ball themselves, keep some pressure on Kansas City and Mahomes. But I think what people aren't talking about, though, is Deandre Hopkins. So Deandre Hopkins, former Houston Texan, he's now on the Chiefs. He's looking to get his lick back against Houston. You know that he wants to be a part of that run that Kansas City's being on. He wants to help them get to their 7th straight AFC Championship, or the Kansas City Invitational. As Nick Wright on Fox Sports calls it. But Kansas City, if you're looking at some betting for the game, they are 0-6 when it comes to covering the spread when they're favored by 7.5. And right now they are favored by 7.5. So, I mean, if it's going off of predictions, I honestly think I got to say Kansas City wins the game. I don't think they're going to cover the spread. My prediction for the score is 24-17. I think Kansas City makes it to their 7th straight AFC Championship game. I think they win their 11th straight game at home, and they get that chance to get to a 3rd straight Super Bowl, get the chance to win a 3rd straight Super Bowl, and I think Kansas City kind of keeps it pushing here. So I think it'll be a good game. Obviously, the score, I said, it's relatively close, but that's kind of been how Kansas City's been all year. They have the lead. They do what it takes to win. You think they're going to lose, but they kind of keep squeezing out W's where you really don't expect them. In Houston, they kind of back their way into the playoffs, if we're being honest. I mean, I picked the Chargers last week to beat them. That was the only matchup I got wrong. So I did go 5-1 last week. We'll see how this week plays out. But Houston kind of, broke a little bit of that mold they were going through this year. Seemed like they kind of won the AFC South by default. Jacksonville wasn't very good. Trevor Lawrence got hurt. The Colts weren't very good. And who else am I thinking out in the AFC South? Colts. Oh, and then the Titans were awful too. So Houston, although they were good, although they got the names, they kind of just backed their way into the playoffs. And Kansas City, for some reason, they're just kind of slept on this entire season. They haven't been blowing people out, kind of winning a lot of close games, but that's the key word, is they're winning a lot of these games. They're 15-2. They dropped the last game, which was just the last game of the year, and they already had solidified the first round bye. So that wasn't really a big deal to them. And I think that they're just on that verge. They're on that roll to make history. And I would honestly be shocked. It'd be crazy if Houston actually came out and beat Kansas City. And the thing, too, is that if you're in the Midwest right now, like I am, I'm in Chicago here in Illinois, you know that it's freezing. So you know that Kansas City probably going to be very similar. Houston, they're used to playing inside. They're a dome team, likes to throw the ball around. Yeah, they got Joe Mixon, but even that, they're more of a finesse team, I would say, on the offensive side. And when they're going to Kansas City, they don't have that experience as a team playing out in that cold weather. They're used to, even last week, they got to play the Chargers. That was obviously indoors in Houston. This week, going outdoor, Kansas City, it's freezing. It'll be a completely different type of game. So that's why I talked about it's going to be super important if Kansas City can stop the run. Because if Joe Mixon can get going, and we remember Joe Mixon on the Bengals before he came to Houston, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs before. They made it to a Super Bowl. So if Mixon can get things going, they definitely have a shot to get past the Chiefs. I don't know how close of a shot they have, but they definitely do have one. And just going over some of those stats for this first matchup. Like I mentioned, Kansas City, 10 straight wins at home, trying to get to their 7th straight AFC Championship and trying to become the first team in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. So there's a lot of streaks going on here. Kansas City seems like they're that team. They're the franchise that can get past these streaks, keep making them. I never thought I'd see a dynasty so quickly right after New England and Tom Brady, but here we are already, guys. And I think the Chiefs, the Mahomes of the world, they got what it takes, and they're going to make it to the 7th straight AFC Championship game, which is crazy to say. But I got the Chiefs over the Texans. Then you shift over to the other AFC matchup. This one's on Sunday. This one has the number 1 and number 2 most likely candidates to win NFL MVP this season. You got the Buffalo Bills hosting the Baltimore Ravens. So just an absolute classic matchup. I hope the game lives up to the hype. I hope the game turns out to be a classic. And the question I've been thinking on and I've been thinking about is, will Josh Allen and the Bills continue this surprise run? A lot of people didn't even expect them to make the playoffs this year. They lost a ton of people on offense, on defense, and it kind of seemed like, this is a revamping year. But they ended up going 13-14. They won the AFC East. They got the number 2 seed in the AFC playoffs. And yeah, the Miamis of the world were underwhelming. New York Jets were a complete failure this year. New England Patriots, with the rookie quarterback, already fired their coach. So Buffalo also, like I talked about Houston, Buffalo kind of won the division by default, but they were very impressive this year. But when it comes down to that question, can the Josh Allen Bills run continue this season? It's going to be tough. These two teams, they matched up earlier this year. The Ravens absolutely destroyed the Bills, 35-10. Derrick Henry ran for 199 yards that game, and I do suspect the Ravens are going to follow that formula, just pound the ball with Derrick Henry, with Lamar Jackson, especially with the weather that's going on in Buffalo. It's supposed to be freezing, supposed to be cold. It's a night game. You know that they're going to have to run that ball, and that's exactly what the Baltimore Ravens are built for. Buffalo, they're trying to make it back to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1993, and they're trying to solidify Josh Allen. He's trying to solidify himself as one of those quarterbacks. He hasn't won the MVP just yet. He hasn't made it to a Super Bowl. And you look at some of his peers, Burrow's made it to a Super Bowl. Lamar's won 2 MVPs. Mahomes got MVPs. He's got Super Bowl MVP. So honestly, I think this is the type of matchup where Josh Allen once again can propel himself. And same thing for Lamar Jackson, man. It really is 2 guys that have a lot to prove head-to-head against each other. And the MVP is still on the line for this season. So it's going to be a crazy-ass matchup. I'm excited. This is the game of the weekend for me. Bills versus Ravens, that's the game of the weekend. So like I said, Buffalo, they're trying to get back to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1993 when they lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. The Ravens, they're trying to get back to the first time and win a Super Bowl since 2012. That was before the Lamar Jackson era, but that was also before Derrick Henry. They've had some slip-ups, but I think what they're going to do, get the ground rolling, pound the ball. Lamar Jackson looks different throwing the ball. He's got the stats galore that back him up if you just want to look at stats for MVP. But I do think that the Baltimore Ravens, they're going to be able to come out, punch the Bills, running the ball. James Cook, obviously, he can run too, so it's going to be a pretty close game. But I think that it's going to get close. Fourth quarter, my prediction, I'm going 27-24 Ravens over the Buffalo Bills, man. I think it's just that story this year. Lamar Jackson's got something to prove. They lost last year in the AFC Championship to the Chiefs. Derrick Henry, first season with the Ravens. I think the farthest he's ever got was also the AFC Championship back with the Titans. So, there's 2 guys that have all the stats, that have the accolades. All they need now is at least a Super Bowl appearance. I would say a ring. But it's going to be an interesting matchup, man. You got these two teams that run the ball a lot, but they also have these crazy dynamic quarterbacks that can run, throw, pretty much do everything that they can. And it just comes down to, can Josh Allen just kind of keep putting Buffalo on his back? The Ravens, Lamar Jackson, they have a complete team. They have like 6 all-pro players. The Buffalo Bills, they have one, and his name is Josh Allen. So it's kind of this whole team buildup of the Baltimore Ravens going up against this one guy, Josh Allen. Yeah, they're 13-4. That is somewhat deceiving. They got to play against Miami, the New York Jets, and the New England Patriots 2 times apiece. And the Ravens, they did have some lackluster losses, but they did beat Buffalo earlier this season. Like I said, Baltimore absolutely smoked them 35-10. Derrick Henry had 199 yards. Lamar Jackson had 150-plus yards passing. I think he had 2 touchdowns thrown that game, and they just pretty much balled out. So we got the 2 favorites for MVP going up against each other. And unfortunately, I think Josh Allen, again, just kind of gets the short end of the stick. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, they're going to get to go to the Kansas City Invitational. They're going up against Patrick Mahomes once again. And Lamar, man, he's got a lot to prove. I know he's got 2 MVPs. He could win a 3rd this year, but he still hasn't won the big game. And that's kind of the same exact thing for Josh Allen. So that's what's a little bit more crazy, is that, coming out of this game, one of them, whether it's Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, everyone's going to put the blame on them. Everyone's going to be hating on them. So it's going to be a tough matchup, because whoever loses, they're catching a ton of heat on social media. They're going to be catching a ton of heat from the media. So good luck, Josh Allen. Good luck, Lamar Jackson, because this could be an epic battle of the ages that we never forget. And it could be the next one that launches them to a Super Bowl, launches them to that next MVP for Lamar, or a first ever MVP for Josh Allen. But we'll see what happens, because it's going to be crazy. And I'm not stop saying, yeah, man. So AFC, we're wrapped up. I'm saying Kansas City over Houston. In the other matchup, I'm going Lamar, Derrick Henry over Josh Allen, James Cook, and the Buffalo Bills. So I think the Kansas City Chiefs, I think they get to their 7th straight AFC Championship game. I think the Ravens make it back this year, try to get revenge against Kansas City when they beat Buffalo, and we'll see how that matchup goes, man, because Kansas City, they're more vulnerable than ever. Baltimore looks like they're more legit than ever. So if they can escape this weekend, if they can make it to the AFC Championship, we're in for one hell of a rematch, y'all. So I'm hoping and I'm picking Kansas City to get over Houston, and Baltimore to beat the Bills, and Baltimore, Kansas City to match up in the AFC Championship game. So let's shift over now to the NFC. So we'll talk about the game that's on Saturday as well. And it's kind of fugazi, a little crazy that the number 1 seeds are both on Saturday, but I guess technically they're not as good of the matchups. But in the NFC, man, Detroit Lions versus the Washington Commanders. We got them this Saturday. Do the Lions make it to their 2nd straight NFC Championship game? Washington right now, they're on a 6-game winning streak. They beat the Bucs last week on a doink field goal that actually went in. Both of them are top 5 scoring offenses. Detroit was number 1 this season, averaging 33 points per game. Daniels, he had 2 touchdowns, 268 yards last week against Tampa Bay, and he's trying to get to his NFC Championship game, add that to his rookie resume. He's already looking like he's going to be the rookie of the year. The Lions, if you remember, they got bounced last year, dramatic fashion to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and they've pretty much locked in on defense, on offense. Looks like both of their coordinators might be gone after this year. And David Montgomery, he's back in the backfield. He'll be back this week to rejoin the Detroit offense. And with all of that being said, I do think Detroit makes it to their 2nd straight NFC Championship game. They knock off Daniels and the Washington Commanders, send them back home packing. The Lions have been on a mission all season. You remember last year at the end, Dan Campbell talked about it. He's like, yo, I know we lost this game. We blew a lead to the Niners, but I told these guys it's going to be even harder next year. Now we're going to have expectations, and now we want to make it back to where we were. And they've been the real deal. They're 15-2. So number 1 seed in the NFC, 15-2. Number 1 seed in the AFC, 15-2. So you got 2 juggernauts that look like they're on a collision course. Both of them, one, Detroit going up against a rookie this year, Kansas City going up against a rookie of the year last year. So we got a matchup right here, man. Commanders got the offense that can probably rock with the Lions. Like I said, Lions are number 1, but Washington Commanders are also a top 5 offense. And I'm assuming they're number 5 because if there's 2 in the top 5 and Detroit's number 1, they probably would be like, yo, there's 2 in the top 3. So Washington number 5, Detroit number 1. And I know I said it's going to be close. Nah, I don't think it's going to be close, honestly. I think it'll be a good game, but I think Detroit kind of handles it. And my prediction for the score is 31-17, Detroit over the Washington Commanders. So we'll see an NFC North team once again make it to the NFC Championship. Detroit's still trying to get their first ever Super Bowl. I don't think they've ever even made it to a Super Bowl. So you know that fan base is just itching for a win. They're itching to make it. And the NFC North this year, where my Chicago Bears played, last place. But NFC North, we had 3 playoff teams. We're down to just 1 now. So we had the Packers, we had the Vikings, we had Detroit, and now we're just down to Detroit. So this proves how the regular season, man, it's its own thing in itself. We saw the Vikings pretty much have almost the same record as the Lions. Then they went out last week and just got mollywopped by the Los Angeles Rams. But we got an all defense, all offense type of teams here from Detroit. And if they lose to Washington, man, it's gonna be sad because Detroit, it looks like everything's riding on this season, man. Fans are locked in. Everyone is just locked in for Detroit to make that run. They're still trying to see if Hutchinson can come back after that crazy injury that he had. And if they do make it farther, there is an opportunity for him to make it back. And this, who knows what that window of opportunity is for Detroit. Ben Johnson right now, he's interviewing with the Bears. Hopefully he comes here. He's interviewing with the Raiders. Aaron Glenn's interviewing with some different teams too. I think the Saints, a few others. But those are their Ben Johnson offensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn defensive coordinator. They might both be gone. So this could be a small window just opening up for Detroit that they got to walk through and take advantage. But I think they'll win this weekend. Who knows what happens when they get to the NFC Championship, but I think they'll push through and get past the Commanders. Ooh, excuse me. All righty. So in the second matchup, y'all, and like I said, the matchup for Philadelphia. Ooh, just rock the mic. For Philadelphia, with the Sunday matchups, to me, these are probably the most intriguing. So you got at night the Baltimore-Buffalo game. Earlier in the day on Sunday, you have the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Los Angeles Rams. So these two teams, they also matched up earlier in the season. The Philadelphia Eagles also put a beat down on the Rams, 37-20. Defense dominated that game. They sacked Matthew Stafford 5 times, and the LA Rams went 0 for 8 on third down. Saquon had 2 touchdowns that game, 255 yards rushing. So LA obviously has to slow him down. I don't know if that's actually possible. And Saquon's actually had 100+ rushing yards 7 out of his 8 last games. The difference is, though, that the Rams, they've also held their opponents to under 10 points 4 of their last 5 games. So there's kind of 2 things going up ahead of each other. They played each other this year already. It's hard to beat an NFL team twice in a season. The Rams defense looked like crap a lot in the beginning. They got destroyed by Saquon, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. But then we look at these last 4 games, or last 4 out of 5 games, they've given up less than 10 points. They gave up 9 points last week to Minnesota. And they're holding a lot of these opponents under 10 points. And with A.J. Brown reading books on the sideline, the passive offense, or the passing offense of the Eagles kind of looking vulnerable, I would say I do think that the Eagles might be in trouble. So if you're looking at all the stats, if you're looking at all the analytics, all the trends, it probably does point towards Philadelphia. They got Saquon, they got the receivers, they got a defense. But if you're looking at Manalytics, you're looking at the coaching, the quarterback brain, you got Matthew Stafford, you got Sean McVay. So this matchup to me, Eagles versus the Rams, is kind of like analytics and stats versus Manalytics. You got the stats and analytics for Philly, then you got those Manalytics for Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford. We know that combination has won a Super Bowl before. We know they have what it takes. And honestly, that making me think there's going to be an upset. I'm going with the Rams over the Eagles on the road, 17-14. I know Saquon's been an absolute dog, but what I think is they're just going to stack the box, play everything on the run, and see if Jalen Hurts can beat them. And I talked a little bit about the weather in the Midwest. Same thing. It's supposed to be pretty damn cold in Philadelphia this weekend. So we'll see if Jalen Hurts can even throw the ball around. He did play last week when they got the dub, but he was out a couple weeks before that. So they're vulnerable, man. Philadelphia, they got the 14-3 record. They're a favorite of many all season. They got an absolute stacked offensive side of the ball, absolute stacked defensive side of the ball. So it could be a little bit of a surprise, but I'm just not sold on Jalen Hurts. I'm not sold on their head coach Sirianni. I'm more sold on Matthew Stafford. I'm more sold on Sean McVay and his game planning. So I think the Rams, they got something to play for. Matthew Stafford talked about it. We're playing for the people of Southern California, those impacted by the fire. So maybe they do have a little bit something extra that's bringing them all together as a team. So I'm going to have to go with the Los Angeles Rams. I think they're going to go into Philly and upset the Philadelphia Eagles. So in the NFC, I'm going with the Detroit Lions to beat the Washington Commanders, make it to their second straight NFC Championship game. And I'm going with the upset on the other side. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, to slow down Saquon Barkley, beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and kind of prove why Jalen Hurts is not truly a franchise quarterback. And I think we get that matchup, Matthew Stafford versus Jared Goff in the NFC Championship game. Stafford gets to go back to Detroit to try to make it to another Super Bowl. And how crazy will that be if he's the reason Detroit does not make it to a Super Bowl? Matthew Stafford, probably the greatest quarterback in Lions history, could be the reason that the Lions don't make it to their first ever Super Bowl. So let me know what you guys think, man. There's so much different types of narratives going around with all these games, and it's exciting, man. I really do think Detroit beats the Commanders. I know Daniels has had a crazy rookie season. Washington can score the ball like crazy, but I think Aaron Glenn and the defense will have something cooked up for the rookie. And then I think Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, that combination right now is catching fire at the right time. Defense has been playing pretty good, only giving up 10 points or less for the last 5 games. I think they upset the Eagles. They stop Saquon Barkley at least a little bit and kind of prove why you got to put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands. And I think Matthew Stafford gets to go back to Detroit, play against Jared Goff in the matchup we all want to see, who won that trade. And Matthew Stafford could be the reason Detroit doesn't get to a Super Bowl, which would be an epic storyline. So it's going to be exciting, man. I'm excited. I can't even wait till Saturday. Saturday at 3:30, we lock it in for the Chiefs. I'm pumped up. And like I said, they're all really good matchups. These are all really good matchups, but that's not the only reason to be excited. There's also a lot of really good narratives that go along with the game. So in the first matchup in the AFC, Deandre Hopkins, he gets to play against his old team, potentially be a part of a 7 straight AFC championship and help the Chiefs maybe win their 3rd straight Super Bowl. In the other matchup in the AFC, you got 2 MVP favorites, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, both trying to get to their first ever Super Bowl. And in the NFC, after just being terrible pretty much all the last history of their wealth and their history of the franchise, the Lions are now on the verge of their 2nd straight NFC championship game with only a rookie phenom in their way. And in the last matchup, the Saquon improved Eagles, yeah, they're 14-3 this season, but with Hurts recently being injured, they're looking pretty vulnerable. And Matthew Stafford, Los Angeles Rams, they blew out Minnesota and they've won one before, so we know they could win it all, man. I'm excited. These narratives just kind of speak for themselves, man. You got all types of storylines that could happen. Lamar versus Mahomes, Josh Allen versus Mahomes, CJ Stroud, somebody knocking out Mahomes and the Chiefs. And the other side, you got maybe a rookie makes it to the NFC Championship. Maybe a rookie knocks off this juggernaut Detroit Lions. Can Detroit prove that they're actually good? Can they get to a 2nd straight NFC Championship? Can they make it to their first Super Bowl? Can the Eagles continue this season? The last 2 seasons, they've had killer records all year, kind of fall apart in the playoffs. Will that happen again? Will Jalen Hurts step up? Will Sirianni step up? Or will it just be McVay and Stafford, just kind of that duo that starts to be sneaky up there? If they can sneak in a 2nd ring, man, that's going to be just something nobody expected. So I'm excited for the matchups, not only for the gameplay, but these different narratives, man. It's going to be an epic NFC divisional round. Let me know who you guys think is going to win, man. I can't even go to sleep right now. I'm pumped up. About to do 30,000 push-ups, 30,000 curls. We in this mug. But drop a comment. Let me know who you guys think is going to win. And just let me know what you guys think in general about all my predictions, everything going on. Hit like, drop a comment, hit subscribe, hit share. Let's go. Deuces.